Okay, as promised, I was able to get Mike away from his busy schedule, tap into some of his experiences, and it's really a pleasure and a privilege to have here with us because one of the number one questions I get now, I have been in this industry, for 5 years, talked to hundreds of people, of roofers, roof cleaners, gutter, anybody in home service, and quite honestly, even entrepreneurs, those who are looking at, AI and saying, wait, AI is going to replace everything. I want to get into a home service. No one's replacing, AI is not replacing home services, but I'm an entrepreneur. And I do think this niche is cool. It's not very complicated. It's got a high profit margin. But at the end of the day, I always get the question, can I speak to somebody who's actually sprayed the product, right? And we talked about how to sell it. Mike has, done this for 20 years. And there's a whole nother story we'll tell you about later. Matter of fact, if you're on our channel, look at the story of Keith and Mike and Vital Coat. It's a really cool legacy story. There's an accident that happened. I won't give away the plot to the story, but it's really how all this started. So you are not just someone who said, wow, this is a cool trend. You started the trend, right? You
Yeah.
saw the product in its original formulation. You guys brought it to market. Um, Obviously, there's a ton of credibility behind you with, big box stores, carrying the products, different products that you have. So there's all this credibility. But at the end of the day, I'm a roofer. I have a name in the industry or in my market. And I'm saying, I got to speak to a dealer. I have to speak to someone. And so we have the best person to possibly speak to, Mike Patrick. Mike, if I referred somebody to you, because sometimes I'll send them to you by phone, what is it that you'll say to somebody who says, what's it like spraying it on the roof?
Well, we get the ones that have signed up through other programs and it's failed, and they're coming to us now going, "Hey, I got involved with a company and the product's failing, and I'm getting all these phone calls, and
Uh,
they want to know the difference between ours and say the soy or the molecular stuff that's out there. They
yeah.
want to know the difference. They in a lot of the big difference in that area is you see those guys up on a roof and they got a fire hose over their shoulder and they are just flooding
Got
a roof. Okay. Our product is not that way. You simply just get the roof wet, um, and you don't want it running on you. Now, the new people they got a pickup truck, they need extra money. Maybe they've been a painter or a pressure washer before. This kind of suits everyone. You can go huge with it very quickly, or you can do it on the weekends and make a lot of money. Um,
sure.
I always tell people if you can work a pump sprayer and you are stable on your feet and not scared of getting on a roof, then you can go make money at this stuff. Um, so, like I said, the viscosity of ours is like milk.
Mm,
It's watery. It'll spray through a pump sprayer. You technically do not want to use any type of airless that causes tip friction. So your 5 gallon bucket airless paint sprayer that you have that's $3,000, you don't want to go run acrylic through it if you're new. I mean, you
right.
could technically if it was
Mm,
opened up enough and you cleaned it. It's water based. So you would do 5 or 10 gallons and you'd run some water through it and make sure your tip was clear. But the thing that we want to stay away from is that tip friction. You don't want the solution to dry before it hits the surface. You want it to land on it, have enough time to soak in, and do what it needs to do. So those are two things. Um, Obviously there are some rules to application that you need to know
sure.
about. You want to start at the bottom of the roof and work your way up to the top of the gable.
Mm,
That way, if you're in a warm scenario, Say it's getting hot outside, which we don't recommend. You want to install it in the coolest part of the day. But if it begins to run on you and you have a screw up and it starts to run, you're not going to create a streaking scab because
Gotcha.
it's running over something you've already applied the product to. So those are big questions we have. Um, Anything other than that, it's simple. It's not rocket science.
Hmm.
So safety, number one. Number two is protect your site. So if you're a soft wash guy, you show up to a home and you look around, say they've got a brand new Mustang sitting right at the edge of the driveway that's under the roof.
Sure.
You want to move that car. You don't want to get coating all over it. Say they've got rose bushes all the way around the house. You're a soft wash guy. You've moved the car. Let's take some water and wet the bushes or the azaleas or whatever plants they are. Anything you don't want this stuff to stick to, you get it wet. It's
Hmm.
that easy. Um,
Gotcha.
and that's basically it. You want to set up like you're going there to paint or soft wash. I mean, it's simple.
And what will they experience? Are they going to see it dry quickly? What's going to happen in terms of the application?
So technically, in most environments, say it's 70 degrees outside. Once you start and spray a 2,000 square foot roof, by the time you get done, where you started is getting khaki. You wait 30 minutes, you can go ahead and hit a second coat if you need it. Um, we do need 12 hours without rain
Hmm.
before you get any weather. So you want to plan like anything else.
Sure.
You need to protect it for 12 hours. So usually what we would do when we were installing was we would have a soft wash crew out in front of us, and they were 3 days ahead of us. You want to make sure that there's no acids left on the shingle. You want it rinsed. So maybe go wash if you're a spray it and leave it kind of guy. If you're on the soft wash world, make sure that it's going to rain, and then have enough time to dry before you get to it to install. The product is water based, so adding water will dilute it. So that's something to be mindful of. But other than that, it's extremely simple. One big question that we used to get all the time, and I'm sure you've been asked this, is um, how do you protect everything? If you feel that you need to go put tarps down over stuff, go for it. It's very controlled. You're not, weather is key. If it's windy, and you got things in your surroundings, you don't want to be spraying something into the air. Even though,
Gotcha.
you're this far away from you're 2 feet above the shingle. If it's windy, it's not a good idea. But a lot of little pointers that we do offer training. So if you're just not comfortable, usually I always tell people, we can come train you if you're just that green. But usually, once you do a roof, you kind of get the gist of it. A 4 foot painter shield on a pole. If you're up on the roof and they got a chimney, put that sucker down. You spray your stuff. You don't get any sealer on the siding. So it's just little tidbits like that.
Yeah. And obviously, for those who have already begun applying the product, this is helpful. But someone who says, "Hey, I want to speak to a dealer," and part of what they're exploring is this compared. Why am I picking this over other products? What do you say?
So that's common. Obviously people research things now. The difference in the soy-based stuff is it's oil-based, it's petroleum-based. So your roof is the hottest part of your home. It can get upwards of 200 degrees depending on where you're at. So anything petroleum, when it gets hot, it evaporates. So here, the oil-based stuff, it may last 10 days and it's gone. It's not there. Um, it does nothing for the granule loss. You know, if it's evaporated off, what is it doing for your granules? So that's where our product comes in, fills the void with the acrylic where you have granule loss. Okay, it's a sacrificial layer. I always say the soy-based stuff is more of a lotion, right? If your home is in the shade all day long, and doesn't get much sunlight, lotion is great. It may last a little
Sure.
longer, but it is not going to do anything other than maybe give some flexibility to your shingle, which does nothing in the weather world. Um, now there are some molecular silica type products out there that they're basically an asphalt densifier. So what they do is when they absorb into the shingle,
Uh-huh.
the molecular size is small, so it absorbs quickly. And what it tends to do is open up the substrate. It gets
Mm,
in the asphalt content, it opens it up, and then the idea is for it to bond back together and become solid again with the help of that product. Now, typically when you tear something apart, it most of the time it never goes back together the way it should be. And if
mm.
it's something that's old, you really need it to go back together the way that it originally was. So,
I
depending on
see.
the age of the shingle, if you get into that asphalt content and you're unbonding something from the fibers, it's not going to go back the same.
Hmm.
99% of the time, it will not. So that's why we steer away from those types of products. Say you sprayed a roof with that product and it rained. Now you've created a leak for your customer.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to do that. It's like the mechanic that comes over, he always has an extra bolt left over or a
Sure.
nut. He tore something apart and it never went back together the same way. You know,
Exactly.
our theory is don't tear it apart, just protect it. Let's build a house over it. Um, so those are the differences. There are some companies out there, right when we got going that threw an acrylic shingle coating to the market and
Mm,
they didn't know anything about acrylics. Technically, acrylic does not bond to an asphalt shingle, but
mm,
ours does. And we've proven that through years and years and years of being in Home Depot and Lowe's and Amazon and Ace Hardware. So
hmm.
yeah, there's one manufacturer in the world that makes a type of acrylic that will bond to asphalt, and that's ours.
Uh-huh. Well, that's it. So, obviously we have other videos out there, but a dealer is thinking, can I sell it? We've talked about that. I mean, obviously that's more of a sales conversation, but can I sell it? Obviously, there are seven-figure dealers out there. Um, is it easy to apply? What's the process going to look like? These are all the things that I can understand if somebody's a roofer and they're going to add this to their business, a roof cleaner. And, in another conversation, we can talk about other factors like profitability and so forth. Our business model lends itself to making it easy to do. And so we'll cover some of those other things. I mean, obviously, you're never going to cover all of the questions as we think of them. We're going to create these great videos for you. Hey, Mike, once again, thanks for jumping on here with all your wisdom and experience. And you know what? We'll be back, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one.